He thanks me for dinner while her sandal sticks out from our storage door. I'm 39, a notary public, from Arlington, Virginia. He smiles, the kind of smile you offer when you've decided you've gotten away with it. There's chicken grease on the corner of his mouth, and I watch his hand wipe it absent-mindedly on the hem of his sleeve. We're standing in the hallway between our unit and the storage room, thin drywall, one overhead light flickering like it's tired of hiding things. I say nothing. Just nod and hand him the dessert plate. Inside the storage room, muffled laughter. Hers. Too familiar, too practiced. The kind of giggle that's used to echoing in private corners. He doesn't react. He thinks I don't hear it. Or worse, he thinks I'll pretend not to. My eyes drift downward again. Her left sandal, faux leather, dusty pink, jammed awkwardly beneath the storage door like it tried to escape but didn't quite make it. She always leaves something behind. I used to think it was careless. Now I think it's arrogant. I slide the bolt, click. The laughter stops. Not all at once, more like the tail end of a joke choking itself out. The silence that follows is thick and uneven. Dean turns, blinking. "You okay?" I say, "Yeah," and dial. My thumb hovers over the name I saved 3 days ago. Ben, Rachel's husband. The number rings once. Twice. The hallway smells faintly of old cardboard, cleaning supplies, and something artificial and floral, not mine. I don't look at Dean. I look at the keypad on the door. I changed the code 2 weeks ago, just after finding a second set of footprints in the dust inside. I never told him. The keypad light blinks red now. Locked from the outside. "Babe?" he tries. "What are you?" But I hold up a finger. The phone clicks. "Hello?" Ben's voice is groggy. I glance at my watch. 8:17 p.m. "It's Mara," I say. "Can you stop by? There's something I think you should see." I keep my voice even. No tremble, no accusation. Just the calm cadence of a woman who's been thinking in silence for far too long. Ben hesitates. "Is Rachel there?" "Yes." "Where?" "Storage room, with Dean." He exhales, slow and sharp. "On my way." I end the call. Dean is knocking on the inside of the storage door now. Not hard, just a gentle tap, like he's trying to figure out if this is a joke. "Mara? Come on, what's going on?" I lean against the wall. The hallway is narrow, just wide enough for 2 people to brush shoulders if they pass. I'd always hated that about this building. Now I appreciate it. Everything here is forced close, even the lies. I hear Rachel whispering something. I don't make it out. Don't care. Let them sit with the scent of pine sol and dust. Let them study each other's faces in the dimness. Let them remember every lie they rehearsed. Dean tries again. Louder. "Mara, open the door." "What are you doing?" I picture the invoice from the locksmith sitting on my kitchen counter. I requested it printed, signed, and dated. I watched the technician reset the code, watched him punch in my custom sequence, my wedding anniversary backwards. Then I changed it again, to hers, Rachel's birthday, just to be sure. It worked. Dean must have thought I wouldn't notice. But she used it 4 times in the last 2 weeks. I checked the lock logs. They timestamp every access, every betrayal. The first time was Monday. I was at the DMV. The second was Thursday. He told me he was running late at the gym. I'd made spaghetti that night. He came home, hair damp, smelled like her lotion, vanilla sugar. I scrubbed the sheets after he fell asleep. The third time I waited. Didn't confront, just watched. Then came today. I made dinner. Chicken and rice, his favorite. I cleaned the baseboards, lit candles, smiled like the kind of wife magazines pretend exist. He thanked me, kissed my cheek, then walked her into our storage room like it was a private suite. Maybe they thought the soundproofing would save them. Maybe they thought I'd gone out. Either way, they didn't check the hallway. They never do. Rachel always leaves something behind. Sandal this time. Last week, it was a bracelet. I gave it back to her with a smile. She blinked and laughed like I was funny, like I was slow. Dean's voice rises. "Mara, this isn't funny. Open the door." I text Ben again. "I'm downstairs. I'll wait outside the unit." No emoji, no punctuation, just the kind of message that doesn't ask for understanding. The bolt stays in place. I don't scream. I don't cry. I sit on the folding chair by the stairwell and breathe. This building's pipes click at night. echo up through the vents. I used to find it irritating, now it's white noise. Behind the door, Dean mutters something. Rachel says his name. I wonder if they're arguing or just scared. Either way, it's the first honest sound I've heard from them in weeks. I hear the elevator ding. Ben's footsteps are sharp, controlled. He rounds the corner, sees me, sees the door, sees the sandal. His jaw tightens. I stand. You ready? I ask. He nods once. No words. He takes the spare key. I hand him. I sit back down. He walks to the door, slips the key into the bolt, pauses. Lets the silence settle, then click. The door swings open, and I don't look up. I just listen. Rachel gasps. Dean shouts. Someone says, "Wait, it's not what," but I've heard enough versions of that line to last me. I focus on the quiet sound of a chair scraping the floor. I close my eyes. The hallway smells like closure. 3 weeks ago, Rachel knocked on my door holding a container of soup and smiling like we were best friends. She always smiles too long. That over-polished kind of warmth, like someone who thinks eye contact is a gift she gives out carefully. "I made too much," she said. "Ben's doing keto again." Her laugh was breathy, rehearsed. She handed me the container and I took it, fingers brushing just enough to make her flinch. Or maybe I imagined it. The lid was too warm for something she claimed to have just taken off the stove. I remember thinking it smelled like my own spice rack. I thanked her. She lingered. "You've got the nicest storage space." "Ours is so cluttered." "I'm jealous." She looked past me like she could see through the drywall, like she'd already been inside. I smiled back. We like to keep things organized. That night, the container sat untouched in the fridge. I told Dean Rachel had dropped it off. He barely looked up from his phone. "She's sweet," he said, "always going out of her way." I watched him scratch his neck, that same spot he scratches when he's lying. 2 days later, I found the bracelet. It was tucked between the Christmas decorations and the old duffel bag we haven't used since pre-COVID. Rose gold with a tiny charm shaped like a crescent moon. I don't own jewelry like that. I held it between 2 fingers like evidence from a crime scene. Dean said he hadn't been in the storage room for weeks, said maybe it belonged to whoever lived here before. I didn't argue. I just nodded. I'll leave it out. Maybe someone claims it. The next morning, it was gone. I hadn't moved it. Dean swore he hadn't either. I didn't ask again. A week passed. Things went still. Too still. He started washing his gym clothes the moment he got home, kept his phone face down during dinner. He smiled more, but only with his mouth. His eyes stayed tired. When he kissed me, his lips were cool, his hands careful, like he was afraid to touch anything too long. I began to watch him. Not stalk, not snoop, just observe. Noted when he left. What time he returned. Which drawer his cologne ended up in. Where his socks went. I created a map in my head. Monday gym. Home by 7:50. Tuesday late meeting. Wednesday off. Dinner together. But Thursday was the crack. Thursday, he said he'd go for a run after work. I left first. Drove 3 blocks over. Parked by the pharmacy and waited. He didn't run. He looped back to our building and disappeared into the side entrance, the one closest to the storage unit. I waited 26 minutes. He never came back out. When I returned, he was in the kitchen, sweaty, smiling. "That run cleared my head," he said. "You should have come." He kissed my forehead. His shirt was damp, but his socks were clean. I made spaghetti that night. He said it was his favorite. I watched the way he held his fork, the way he chewed slower than usual, eyes occasionally flicking toward the hallway. I didn't mention the perfume I'd smelled in the stairwell. Vanilla sugar and something sharper, not mine. I didn't ask about the shirt I'd found folded differently than I do it. I just poured us wine and smiled like someone who believed him. That night I opened the storage room, just stood there, breathing the stale air, listening. Nothing but silence and the hum of the building's boiler. But the dust patterns were different. Tracks near the back wall, a dent in the floor lamp we don't even use. One of the moving blankets was gone. I called a locksmith the next day, told him I needed the code changed, new cylinder, new keypad. "You want a new pin?" he asked. I nodded. "Use the 15th of October, 2006. Our wedding date." "That's a good one," he said. I smiled. Then changed it again that night. Rachel's birthday, July 3. I never told Dean. I wanted to see who would figure it out. That weekend, Rachel waved at me from the mailroom, asked how Dean was doing, told me Ben was traveling for work again. She wore her hair differently straight, center parted. A style Dean always said he liked. I didn't mention that, just complimented her earrings and walked away. I checked the lock log Monday morning. Entry recorded, Sunday, 2:12 p.m. I was at Target, alone. Dean said he went for a walk to clear his head. You should have come, he said. Same words, same lie. I printed the log, tucked it in a manila folder marked Utilities. Then I waited, watched, measured. She brought over cookies that Wednesday, chocolate chip, too perfect. I set them on the counter and said nothing. Dean ate too, said she was thoughtful. I reminded him that my mother's birthday was coming up. He blinked, nodded, clearly forgot. Rachel always remembered. Too much. By Friday, I knew enough. The code, the timing, the sounds, the footprints, the bracelet, the smell. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I didn't accuse. I cleaned, top to bottom, left wine on the counter, lit candles, set dinner like a movie set. I wore the blouse he liked, the soft blue one. I made chicken and rice. Told him to relax while I handled everything. He smiled, kissed me lightly. You're amazing, he said. I don't deserve you, I almost laughed, but I didn't. I just watched him carry his plate to the sink and check his phone. He didn't hide the smirk. 6:04 p.m. I set the dessert in the fridge. Texted Ben. You home? I need you here by 8, he replied. Everything okay? I wrote. Almost. When Dean asked if he could grab something from the storage room, I nodded. Go ahead. Rachel was already inside. I'd left the door cracked. He stepped in. The door clicked. The sandal caught. I left it. Let it show. I poured him wine and set it on the shelf outside. He reached for it just as I slid the bolt. Click. He didn't notice at first. He thought I was playing. Then he heard the lock. His face changed. Behind the door, Rachel laughed. What's funny? He asked. Nothing, she said. Then they went quiet. I checked the lock log one last time. Entry. 6:09 p.m. Exit. None. I deleted the app, opened my contacts, called Ben, and waited. The morning I decided to test them, I woke up before Dean. I stood in the kitchen barefoot, watching the coffee drip while the hallway light flickered the way it always does, like it's waiting to expose something. I'd already moved the keys, left them where they'd be noticed. Not too obvious, just enough. One set on the counter, one on the edge of the bookshelf near the front door. I made sure mine were gone. Took the spare from the plant pot outside, the one Rachel didn't know about, yet. I left the house before Dean did, said I had a notary appointment across town. It wasn't a lie. I did, but I took the long way home. Parked in the lot across from the building, behind the hedge where nobody thinks to look. I brought binoculars. It felt stupid at first, the kind of thing you see in movies, never in real life. But betrayal makes you curious, methodical. It rewires you. I watched the entrance, waited. At 10:42 a.m., Rachel appeared. Leggings, hair in a high ponytail, carrying a tote bag. She wasn't looking around. She moved like someone who belonged here, used her elbow to push the door open, didn't ring the bell, didn't knock. I watched her look around the hallway, then walk straight to the storage unit, the one that requires a code. She didn't pause, just typed it in, quick and practiced. The door clicked open. She slipped inside. I waited. 12 minutes. Then Dean came down from the stairwell, phone in hand, looking both ways. He wasn't wearing gym clothes, just jeans and a t-shirt, the gray one I hate. He tapped the door twice before entering. I wrote it all down. 10:56 a.m. 2 knocks. Entry confirmed. They stayed inside for 34 minutes. I didn't watch the whole time, just enough to feel it settle. Just enough to remove any lingering doubt. When they emerged, they didn't exit together. Dean left first, checked his phone, walked toward the parking lot like he had somewhere to be. Rachel followed 4 minutes later. She looked flushed, smiling. She texted someone I couldn't see who. Then she walked around the building like she was doing laps. I drove home, beat Dean by 20 minutes, washed my hands twice, took a shower, changed clothes. By the time he returned, I was folding laundry and pretending I hadn't noticed his absence. He kissed the top of my head like nothing had happened. "You okay?" he asked. I nodded. "Just thinking." He didn't ask what about. He never does. That evening, I made sure everything was normal. Dinner, dishes. We watched the local news. Rachel sent a group message about a neighborhood cleanup. Dean laughed, said she was always organizing something. I smiled, said she should run for HOA president. He said she'd be good at it. I didn't respond. The next morning, I asked Mr. Caro to walk his dog past our storage door around 6:15 p.m. He's retired. Always eager for a little neighborhood drama. I told him there might be something interesting to overhear. He raised an eyebrow, didn't ask questions. Just nodded and said, "Let me know if I should bring my phone." I told him he should, just in case. That afternoon, I made banana bread, left a plate out for Dean, texted Rachel from Dean's phone. Short message, 6 p.m., storage. Use the code. I deleted the sent message after, cleared the log. Dean had used the same 4-digit PIN for everything since college. Rachel's birthday, July 3. He thought he was clever. Thought I was sentimental, predictable. Maybe I had been. Once. At 5:50, I placed the banana bread on the counter, warmed it just enough to smell like something soft and inviting. I put on the blouse again, the soft blue one, wore perfume he used to complement lavender and cedar, sprayed lightly. Just one wrist, dabbed behind the ear. I cleaned the kitchen counters, lit one candle, vanilla, subtle. Then I waited. At 6:01, Rachel texted him. I didn't check it. I didn't need to. He said he was going down to grab the folding table from storage. I nodded, told him to be quick. "Dinner's almost ready," I said. He kissed my cheek. "Be right back." I stood in the hallway as he walked away, waited until the door closed behind him. Then I followed. Silent, careful, slowed my breathing. The hallway was empty. I heard them before I saw them. Her voice, giggling. His, low, coaxing. The door was slightly ajar. Rachel never closes it all the way. I stepped forward, saw her shoe already kicked off in the doorway, the pink one, the one with the loose strap. I didn't hesitate. I closed the door softly, pulled the bolt, click, stepped back, waited. Dean said something. She laughed, then silence, then knock, then, "Mara?" I didn't answer. Just walked back to our unit, poured wine, set the table, called Ben, told him there was something he needed to see. Told him where, told him who. He didn't ask questions, he just said, "Be there in 20. I hung up, sat at the table, let the wine breathe, let the silence do what it does best. Let it spread. I watched the hallway light flicker again, watched the clock tick past 6:30, heard muffled sounds from behind the door, words too soft to matter. A slap. Maybe something dropped. I didn't care. They were locked in. My part was done. When Ben arrived, I'd hand him the spare. That was all. I didn't need an apology, didn't want an explanation. I wanted proof to do the talking. I wanted the truth to sit in a room with them, unblinking, until they ran out of lies. That's what I planned. Nothing more. The hardest part wasn't setting the trap. It was sitting still while it tightened. That next day, everything moved slower. Dean acted normal. Too normal. He kissed me goodbye with that same hollow sweetness, the kind that doesn't stick. He said he might grab drinks with Mark from work, asked if I needed anything from the store. I told him to pick up more almond milk, knowing full well we had 2 unopened cartons. He smiled, nodded, didn't ask. As soon as he left, I opened my laptop, pulled up the lock access log. Entry, 6:08 p.m., previous night. Exit, none. I printed the log, folded it into the folder with the locksmith invoice, slipped both into a blank envelope. On the front, I wrote in small, steady letters, "For Ben." Then I placed the envelope on the hallway table by the front door, next to the keys. I wanted it to be the first thing he saw when he arrived, not just a confrontation, a handoff, a reveal he couldn't unsee. At 9:20 a.m., I called the HOA line, left a message for Mr. Caro. Storage unit issue. You might want to be in the hallway tonight around 6:10. That was all I said. No details, just enough to prick his curiosity. That man lives for neighborly scandal. At 11:47 a.m., Rachel posted a photo on Instagram, cropped perfectly, her hand resting on Dean's shoulder just enough to be deniable. Caption: "Neighbors make the best friends." The comments made me sick. "Y'all are adorable. Cuties. Double date soon?" She'd tagged our location. Bold or stupid. I tapped the 3 dots and saved the post. Evidence isn't always dramatic. Sometimes it's curated, perfectly filtered. Sometimes betrayal wears makeup and smiles too hard. At 3:15 p.m., Dean texted me, "Running late. Don't wait on dinner." I didn't respond. Just cleaned. The baseboards, the tile grout, the microwave tray. I wasn't angry. I just needed control over something. I prepped the wine glasses. 2. Then removed one. Poured a single glass. Let it sit, breathe, warm slightly. At 4:42 p.m., Rachel texted me, "Hey girl, you guys around tonight?" Thinking of stopping by with banana bread, I stared at the message, typed, deleted, typed again. Then settled on, "That's sweet. We'll be in and out. Dean has work stuff." She replied with a heart emoji. I turned off my phone. At 5:27 p.m., I slipped the extra spare key into a Ziploc bag, wrote Ben in black marker, placed it in the envelope with the log and invoice, taped the envelope shut. I stared at it for a full minute. Then I slid it into the inside pocket of my coat, just in case. 5:41 p.m. I opened the hallway closet, grabbed the old folding chair, walked down to the far end of the corridor, and placed it beside the emergency exit. From there, I could see the storage door clearly. I sat, waited. 5:58 p.m. Dean's footsteps echoed faintly. He came from the stairwell, not the elevator. Rachel appeared less than a minute later. I knew it was her by the cadence light, padded, confident. She always walked like she was on soft carpet. I couldn't see them fully, not yet. But I heard the sound. The door code, 4 quick beeps, the soft mechanical click, the latch swinging open, then a giggle, then it closed. They were inside. 6:02 p.m. I stood, walked to the door, pressed the bolt forward, let it slide into place. Locked, no sound from me, no confrontation. I left her sandal alone this time, let it sit there, angled like it was caught mid-step. I walked back to the folding chair, sat down. 6:05 p.m. The door thudded once, Dean's voice muffled. "Mara?" I didn't move, just stared ahead. 6:07 p.m. A shadow at the far end. Mr. Caro, walking his ridiculous dachshund. He paused, noticed me, gave a small nod. I waved. He walked closer, stopped outside the unit door, pretended to check a text. The door thudded again. "Mara, come on, open the door," Rachel's voice. "She's messing with us." Caro raised an eyebrow. I smiled. He stayed still, ears tuned. 6:09 p.m. I called Ben. "Now," I said. "Bring yourself, no one else." He said nothing at first. Then, "On my way." 6:12 p.m. Caro cleared his throat. "Everything okay?" he asked casually. I said, "Storage door's jammed. I think they're stuck." He blinked, lips pursed. "You want me to?" "Just be a witness," I said. He nodded. Said nothing else. The dog barked once. 6:15 p.m. The hallway fell quiet. Inside, voices dropped low, whispers, panic beginning to bloom. They knew. Not that they were caught, but that someone else might see it. Dean banged again. "What the hell, Mara? This isn't funny." Rachel. "She's serious. She's really doing this." That was the first time I heard fear in her voice. "Good. Let her taste it. Let her chew it for a while." 6:18 p.m. Ben texted, "Parking now." I replied, "End of hallway. Look for Caro." Then I stood, took the envelope from my coat, checked it one final time. Clean, sealed, unmistakable. 6:21 p.m. Elevator dinged. Ben stepped out. Face unreadable. He saw me, saw the storage door, saw Mr. Caro standing frozen like a man caught between moral concern and nosy delight. I held out the envelope. "It's all in there," I said. Ben took it, opened it without speaking, scanned the invoice, the log, the screenshot I'd printed of Rachel's Instagram post. His hand didn't shake, but his jaw did. I handed him the spare key. "Up to you," I said. He walked past me, didn't pause, inserted the key, turned it, click. The door creaked open. Dean's voice broke the air like glass. "Ben, wait," Rachel gasped. "It's not what you think." But it was. It was exactly what he thought, what I thought, what everyone now saw. Mr. Caro let out a soft whistle. The dog barked again. I didn't flinch, just sat back in my chair. The hallway smelled like old carpet and panic. I didn't move, didn't speak. I didn't have to. When Ben turned the key, the hallway air shifted, like the moment before a storm breaks open. No shouting yet, just a breath held too long. The lock clicked, and the door swung half an inch, then stopped. Rachel must have been standing behind it. Then it moved again, all the way open. Light from the hallway poured in and touched her first. She wasn't dressed for hiding. A pale yellow blouse, tight at the waist, hair still damp like she'd showered for the occasion. She squinted, then froze. Dean stood behind her, one arm up like he thought that might somehow block the view. It didn't. Ben didn't speak, didn't yell. Just stood there, holding the envelope I gave him, his jaw tight, breathing slow. His eyes didn't move from Rachel's face. Rachel, for once, didn't have a smile ready. "Ben," she started. He didn't blink, just held up the invoice. "July 3rd, huh?" She swallowed. "It's not the code," he said. "It was your birthday." Her mouth opened, closed. Nothing came out. Dean stepped forward, but Ben raised a hand. "Don't." One word, low, final. Dean stopped. I watched from my chair, didn't flinch. Mr. Caro shifted beside me, suddenly unsure if he wanted to witness this anymore. But he didn't leave. He was frozen, the dog at his feet now completely silent. Even it seemed to understand something was about to change. Ben looked at Rachel again. "I have to ask," he said. "How long?" Rachel's lips trembled. "A few months." She said it too fast, practiced, like she thought confession would equal mercy. Ben nodded once. No expression. "Okay." That was all. He stepped back from the doorway, looked at me. "Do you want the key back?" I shook my head. "Keep it." Dean spoke then. "Mara, this wasn't don't," I said. Same word Ben used, same tone. Dean's mouth closed. I stood, walked to the door slowly, looked at both of them. Her blouse was wrinkled now. His hair was damp. They both looked like children caught playing in a room they weren't supposed to enter. Behind them, inside the storage unit, the folding blanket lay rumpled in the corner. One of my old sweaters was balled up beside it. I stared at that for a second longer than I meant to. Then I looked at Dean. "The invoice is dated October 2nd, I said. "The lock was changed. You used the new code 4 times. Rachel flinched. "You watched us?" "No," I said. "I watched the door, the pattern, the footprints, the lies." Dean shook his head. "We didn't mean for it to. You meant enough to cover it," I cut in. "That's all that matters." He tried to reach for my arm. I stepped back. "Please," he said. "We need to talk." "We're talking," I said. "Right now, in front of everyone." Rachel looked around like she just realized Mr. Caro was still there. She opened her mouth to protest, but he raised both eyebrows and said nothing, just held his phone up slightly, screen glowing red. Rachel's face paled. "Are you recording this?" she asked. "Only the part where you blamed the lock," he said calmly. "Public hallway. Nothing illegal about that." Dean cursed under his breath. Rachel looked like she wanted to cry, but it wouldn't come. Not now, not here. Ben turned to me. "Do you want me to do anything?" I shook my head. "You've done enough." He nodded, then looked at Rachel one last time. "I'll be at my sister's." He walked away, just like that. No bags, no shouting, just absence. Rachel didn't follow. She stayed in the doorway, half in, half out, like she didn't know where she was allowed to stand anymore. I turned to Dean. "You'll need to find a hotel tonight. Mara, come on, don't call me. Just let me explain. You already did, with the code, with her." I looked at Rachel. "And you knew we shared that space. You knew I kept things in there that mattered to me." She bit her lip. "We didn't touch anything." "You touched everything," I said. "You touched the lie and made it real." Mr. Caro cleared his throat again. "Well," he said awkwardly, "if no one's bleeding, I suppose I'll walk the dog." He nodded at me. "Let me know if you need a statement." I gave him a thin smile. "Thank you." He left, his footsteps slow, deliberate. The little dachshund finally barked again, once, like punctuation. I turned and walked back into my unit. Left the door open behind me. I didn't slam it, just let it hang there. Let the silence settle again. I poured a fresh glass of wine, deleted Rachel's number. Then I pulled out the storage code app and deactivated the keypad entirely. Let them try it again. Let the door stay locked now. 30 minutes later, Dean texted, then called. I didn't answer. Then Rachel called from a blocked number. I didn't pick up. The silence they left me with was more honest than any of their explanations ever were. Truth doesn't scream, it waits. Then it opens a door you thought was safe and leaves it hanging open behind you. The morning after Ben unlocked the storage room, the building felt quieter than usual. Not physically, the usual creaks and morning footsteps and muted doors still came and went, but inside me, something had finally gone still. Not peace, not yet, but silence. A cleared stage. I sipped my coffee slowly and opened the drawer where I'd kept everything. The file folder was labeled Utilities. I'd chosen that label on purpose. No one ever questions it. Buried between old internet bills and appliance warranties were the things that mattered now: the invoice from the locksmith, the printed lock logs, and the folded-up quote request I had submitted weeks earlier when I first decided I was done guessing. I placed the items on the counter, laid them out in order like pieces of a puzzle that had always been there. First, the locksmith invoice, standard format, company letterhead, time of service, October 2, 3:14 p.m., service rendered, keypad cylinder replacement, code reprogramming, invoice total, $178, paid in full. I remembered standing there while the technician asked if I wanted to keep the default code. I'd smiled. No, let's make it personal. I told him the sequence. He punched it in, tested the door, said, should be good now. He didn't know what he was resetting. He thought it was just about safety. I saved a photo of the keypad, lit up in green, the new numbers active. I printed that too. Next, the access log. The app tracked every entry, every exit. It didn't care about intentions, just numbers, just time. October 2, 6:08 p.m. entry. No exit recorded. October 4, 5:44 p.m. entry. Exit, 6:09 p.m. October 5, 11:12 a.m. entry. No exit. I highlighted the ones I didn't recognize, ones I knew were not mine. I had receipts for every hour I was away, grocery bills, notary appointments, a time-stamped coffee shop order with my name spelled wrong. Every errand became evidence. I didn't just suspect anymore. I could prove it. I could map the pattern. It was always between 5 and 6 p.m. Right when I was supposed to be commuting or running errands, I taped each printed log page to the kitchen wall one by one, stepped back, watched the timeline form. There it was, the truth, stripped of all the emotional noise. Numbers, dates, proof. Next came the screenshot, Rachel's Instagram post. Still up, still smug. Her hand on Dean's shoulder, just far enough to be innocent, just close enough to be intimate. Caption, neighbors make the best friends. I had cropped it to include the timestamp and geotag. I underlined it in red ink. The wine glass emoji somehow made it worse, like they thought this was clever, like betrayal could be casual. Then I opened my notes app, typed out a list. Not for them, for me. Found sandal. Sept 19. Bracelet. Sept 22. Changed lock code. Oct 23. Confirmed access. Oct 4. Storage unit staked out. Oct 5. Final lock plus trap. Oct 6. Ben called. Oct 6. 6:12 p.m.s. A timeline of deliberate, quiet movements. I had been accused of being too calm before. I used to take it as a flaw. Now I understood it was a weapon. Calm lets you sharpen the blade without trembling. I gathered the papers and slid them into a new envelope. Marked it, to Ben private. But I didn't stop there. I printed one more copy of the invoice. This one I folded and taped gently to the inside of the storage unit door, not in the center that would have looked staged. I chose the left side, next to the shelf where Rachel once left her water bottle. I wanted her to see it, not right away, but eventually, I wanted the truth to be waiting. The next time they tried to pretend this never happened, the paper would still be there. Dated, signed, undeniable. Around noon, I called a friend who worked at a printing kiosk. Asked for 2 color copies of the lock log pages. Just documents, I said. Nothing urgent. She didn't ask why. I picked them up an hour later. The sunlight outside was warm, but it didn't touch me. I felt insulated, wrapped in the kind of clarity that only comes after long denial. Dean texted around 2 p.m. "Can we talk tonight?" I didn't respond. I knew what he'd say, the usual. It didn't mean anything. It was just a phase. We weren't happy. You were distant. As if any of that gave permission. As if love's temperature justified arson. I wasn't going to meet him with rage. I'd meet him with dates, documents, screenshots. The truth didn't need volume. It needed structure. At 4:36 p.m., I sat in the hallway again. The folding chair was cold against my back. I set the envelope on my lap. Watched the hallway light flicker again, always that one. I heard someone laughing downstairs, then a door slamming. Someone's dog barking faintly. But in this hallway, it was quiet. I liked it that way. I liked that this building didn't echo. Secrets stayed close. 5:12 p.m. I saw Rachel walk past the elevator. She didn't see me. She didn't look up. She was on the phone, smiling, probably telling someone she'd be just a few minutes. Probably saying it like she always did, the kind of tone that made you feel like the time wasn't being stolen, just borrowed. She had no idea. 5:48 p.m. Mr. Caro walked by. "Evening," he said. I nodded. "Almost time?" he asked. "Soon. I'll make sure the dog's ready." I almost laughed. Almost. I thought about calling Ben early, but I waited. I wanted the moment to arrive on schedule, like everything else had. I wanted him to see not just what had happened, but how clearly I had seen it forming. He needed to know this wasn't emotional. It was forensic. He arrived just before 6:20 p.m. This time, he wasn't confused. Just tired. I handed him the envelope, said nothing. Let the paper speak. He read the first page, the invoice, then the log, then the Instagram post. I watched his shoulders tighten, then fall, not in defeat and understanding. He looked at me. "You really tracked all of this?" "Yes." "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" "Because you wouldn't have believed me," I said. "Now you don't have to." He nodded. "Okay." And that was the first moment I felt something real again. Not victory, not revenge, just weight shifting. Truth leaving my hands. I pointed down the hall. "The keys in the envelope." "Thanks," he said, and then he went. Toward the door, toward her, toward the proof. I stayed behind. Let them meet the truth without me. I didn't need to see it twice. That night, I couldn't sleep. The house was too quiet in all the wrong ways. Not peaceful, just empty. Not silent, just abandoned. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, counting the soft hums of the refrigerator and the faint buzz of the hallway light outside, the same light that used to keep me up when we first moved in. Dean said we'd get blackout curtains. We never did. It's strange how quickly a place can go from home to something else, a shell, a stage after the play ends. I got up around 3:12 a.m., didn't check the clock. I just knew. My body always knew when something had shifted. I walked barefoot through the living room, touched the back of the couch like I was trying to remember it, touched the coffee table corner where Dean had once stubbed his toe and cursed so loud the neighbors knocked. That was the first week here. Before Rachel, before the code, before the betrayal settled into the drywall. The hallway felt colder. I passed the storage room but didn't open it. The invoice was still taped to the inside wall. I didn't need to look at it again. The paper was truth, but it wasn't comfort. I wanted something softer. I sat on the floor of the hallway, back against the wall, knees up. For the first time in weeks, I let my face go slack. No expression, no plan, just breath. Just the low ache of what now. My phone buzzed at 3:28 a.m. Dean. I didn't answer. He texted, "I don't know where to go." Then, "Can we talk? Please." I typed out a reply. There's nothing left to explain. Then I deleted it. Let the thread hang open, empty. I watched the 3 dots appear, vanish, appear again. He didn't send anything else. I muted the conversation, stood up, walked back into the bedroom, slipped into the side of the bed I never used. His side, just to see if it felt different. It didn't. Morning came gray, the kind of sky that looks like it forgot what season it's in. I made coffee. Didn't toast bread, didn't turn on music, just the drip, drip, drip and the occasional creak of this building aging. I sat at the table and opened my laptop. New document, blank page. Title, What I didn't say. I typed. I knew the first time you looked guilty before you had anything to confess. Then I stopped. Backspaced. Tried again. You lied like someone who thought the lies were small. Backspaced again. This wasn't for him. It was for me. I closed the laptop. Let the blank screen reflect my face for a few seconds. Then I reached under the table and pulled out the small wooden box I hadn't opened in 2 years. Inside, my old journals, the ones from college. From the early years, before Dean, before any of this. I flipped through them slowly, found pages where I'd written what I wanted in a partner: loyalty, presence, quiet confidence. Someone who wouldn't make me feel like I had to compete with silence. I laughed a little, not bitter, just hollow. I wondered what Dean would have written about me if he'd ever bothered. What Rachel thought she was winning. What parts of me they edited out in order to justify each other. Around 11:06 a.m., the doorbell rang. I didn't move. Waited. It rang again. I stood, walked to the peephole. Ben. Alone. I opened the door halfway. "Can I come in?" he asked. "Just for a second." I nodded. He stepped inside, hands in his pockets. "I just wanted to say thank you for showing me, for not letting me find out the hard way." "I think we both found out the hard way," I said. He smiled, not a happy smile, a tired one. "She's at her sister's," he said, trying to explain it like it was stress, or confusion, or loneliness. "Maybe it was. Doesn't matter," he said. "She still made the call." I nodded. He looked around. "It's quiet here." "Too quiet." "No," he said. "Just, honestly, quiet." He reached into his jacket, pulled out the envelope I'd given him. "I left the copy of the log. You might need it if things get legal." "Thanks. You gonna press charges or anything?" I shook my head. "Not for infidelity. Just for disrespect." He laughed once, low. Then he reached into his pocket again, pulled out the pink sandal. "Rachel's. She left this in my car." I stared at it. "Keep it," I said, "as a souvenir." "Of what?" "Of what people think they can get away with." He looked at me. "You're not mad?" "I am," I said. "Just not at you." "At her?" "At what I let myself ignore." He nodded. Then he stepped back. "You ever want to talk, or vent, or not talk at all? Just sit, let me know." "I will. Take care, Mara. You too." I closed the door gently behind him, not locked, just closed. Let the quiet take shape again. I didn't cry. That would come later, probably. In waves, unscheduled. I just sat back down at the table, picked up the pink sandal, turned it in my hand, noticed the wear on the back strap, the way the faux leather was peeling. Everything breaks down eventually, even what looks like love, even what pretends to be new. I placed the sandal beside the invoice. A quiet pairing, proof and echo. Then I turned off my phone and breathed. It didn't start in the storage room. Not really. That was just the last place it fit. The truth had been trailing us longer than I wanted to admit it, hid in silences, in changed colognes, in receipts for things I didn't remember agreeing to buy. But the real start was years earlier, when Dean first came home late and told me, too casually, that he'd missed a meeting and ended up grabbing drinks with some folks. I asked who. He listed 3 names. I only recognized one. He smiled the whole time, like listing names would make it seem normal. I told myself it was. He was networking. That's what people do in his field. You make connections, stay late, grab drinks. But something about the way he scratched behind his ear when he said it the exact way he always did when we were dating and he'd forgotten to call back made me pause. The next day I checked the calendar. He had no meeting scheduled. He never mentioned those names again. I let it go. I filed it under maybe. A few months later, we hosted a game night. Rachel and Ben were there. So were 2 other couples from the building. I remember the way Rachel laughed too hard at Dean's jokes, the way her hand brushed his arm when she passed him the wine. I noticed. I told myself it was nothing. Some women just touch everyone when they talk. Some women are like that. I'm not. I never have been. Later that night, when we were cleaning up, I mentioned it. Just lightly. Rachel's very friendly. Dean didn't look up from the dishes. She's harmless. He said it too fast. Like he'd been waiting to defend her. Like maybe the topic had come up before. I laughed. Didn't say she wasn't. Just observant. He shrugged. She's like that with everyone. That was the first time I felt a split. Not a fracture, just a hairline crack in the trust. So thin I could almost pretend it wasn't there. But I felt it. I remember watching him dry the wine glasses, watching his hands move too carefully, like someone performing normalcy. The second time came when I found the earring. Small, gold, not mine, under the couch. Dean said it must have been from game night. Someone probably lost it and didn't say anything. Who? I asked. No idea. I held it up. You think I should ask? Might embarrass someone. I stared at the tiny thing. It didn't match anything Rachel wore. But something in me whispered her name anyway. I slid the earring into the junk drawer. It's probably still there, under old batteries and orphaned screws. I never asked again. I didn't want the answer. Then came the work trip. Dean was supposed to be in Phoenix. 3 days. I packed his bag, made sure he had enough shirts. He kissed my forehead and said, "I'll call when I land." He did, but the call was short. Background noise too quiet. No hotel sounds. No lobby music, just silence. I asked how the flight was. He said fine, too fine. I asked about the weather. He paused, said, hot. It was raining in Phoenix that day. I Googled it, watched a live cam of the city's downpour. I didn't say anything, just filed it, mental drawer. Then the next day, I saw his car, parked 2 blocks from our building. I was driving home from work early, took a different route. There it was. Same dent near the bumper, same hanging pine-scented air freshener. I pulled over, walked around it, checked the plates. I stood there for a long minute, just breathing. He wasn't in Phoenix. He never left. When I got home, he wasn't there. I waited. When he returned that night, he said the conference got canceled. Didn't want to bother you while you were working, he added. Figured I'd get some stuff done here. I said, you could have told me. He smiled. Didn't want to worry you. We ate takeout that night. He watched a game. I watched him. That's when I started the timeline, not on paper, just in my head. Every lie had a timestamp, every omission, a location. I tracked his tells, the scratch behind the ear, the way he wiped his mouth when he lied, the way he said we when he meant me, the way Rachel's name came up less and less until it didn't come up at all. I wasn't stupid. I wasn't blind. I was patient. I gave the truth a long leash, just to see how far it would run. It ran straight into our storage unit, and that's when I stopped pretending. People like to say hindsight is 20/20, but I think it's sharper than that. Hindsight is surgical. It cuts through all the soft layers you wrapped around yourself to survive. It shows you exactly where you made the decision to not know. I made mine in stages, 1,000 small edits to reality, because facing it meant changing everything, and I wasn't ready. Until I was. Until the lies got lazy. Until they started leaving evidence behind. A sandal. A bracelet. A smile that lasted 2 seconds too long. I started checking timestamps. Not just his. Mine. I checked when I stopped texting first. When I stopped cooking his favorites. When I started saying, it's fine, and meant, this is falling apart. The truth wasn't just his to tell. It lived in me too. It lived in the way I smiled at Rachel when she dropped off banana bread and said she made too much. It lived in the way I handed Dean a towel after his run, knowing damn well he hadn't left the building. It lived in the way I watched, cataloged, archived like a historian of my own collapse. So no, it didn't start in the storage room. It started the first time I chose quiet over confrontation, grace over clarity, politeness over proof. That's the real betrayal, not theirs, mine. I used to think forgiveness was the highest form of strength, that holding your tongue, staying quiet, not making a scene, those were the virtues of the emotionally mature. I don't believe that anymore. Silence isn't always grace. Sometimes it's fear wearing a polite face. Sometimes it's just the lie you tell yourself because the truth would upend the floor beneath you. I spent years holding still so no one else would fall apart. I made myself the soft place to land. And in the end, they landed on me. When Ben opened that storage door, when Rachel gasped, and Dean tried to explain something that needed no explanation, that wasn't the beginning of the end. That was just the curtain lifting. The real ending happened later, when I stood in the middle of our living room and realized I didn't want any of it anymore. Not the apartment, not the memories, not even the couch we picked out together and argued over for 3 weekends. It all felt like stage dressing, a set built for someone else's performance. I wasn't the woman who chose those things. She left the moment she decided to monitor instead of speak. So I stood there, holding the receipt from the locksmith, and thought, what if I just let go of all of it? Not out of rage, not for revenge, but to make space for something honest. That night, I packed a single bag, essentials only, 1 coat, 2 shirts, a pair of jeans, my journals, the sandal, the printed log sheet. I left the rest. Furniture could be sold. Photos could be deleted. The version of me that lived in those things, she was already gone. I left the keys on the counter. Dean came home an hour later, found me standing at the door with my bag. "Where are you going?" he asked. "Somewhere you're not." He stepped forward. "Mara, we can fix this. I've been looking at therapists. It's not a plumbing issue, Dean. I made a mistake." "No. A mistake is forgetting a birthday. A mistake is misplacing your phone. You made a choice." Repeatedly. "I was lonely. So was I. But I didn't crawl into someone else's space to fill it." He looked away. "You're really leaving?" "I left the moment I stopped believing you saw me." "So what now? We just throw it away?" "It was already broken. I'm just done pretending it isn't. We had good years. We had believable years." He flinched. I softened. "You're not a monster, Dean. Just a man who thought he could have more without asking what it would cost." "And Rachel?" he asked. "You think she's the villain?" "I don't think she's anything. She's your consequence now." He didn't stop me, just watched me walk out. The hallway smelled like paint, fresh layers to cover old cracks. I walked past the storage room without looking. Let it stay shut. Let it rot into whatever tomb it needed to be. I spent the next 3 nights at a hotel by the pier, the kind with thin towels and slow elevators. I liked the impersonality of it. No memories, no echoes. Just me, the ocean outside, and the hum of my own breath. I wrote every night, longhand. I filled 10 pages the first night, 20 the second. By the third, I stopped writing to him and started writing to myself. I wrote, "You are not the absence he left behind. You are the presence that remains." I wrote, "You stayed longer than the truth did." That wasn't love. That was loyalty to your own illusion. I wrote, "You don't owe closure to people who break things and hand you the broom." It was the first time I felt full in weeks, not happy, but filled, with something like clarity. On the 4th day, I called a realtor. Asked what it would take to list the unit. "That neighborhood sells fast," she said. "You'll get offers within a week." "Good," I said. "I won't be living there anymore." "Where should I forward documents?" she asked. "Nowhere permanent," I said. "Not yet." That night, Ben texted. "Just one word. Thank you," I replied. We both deserved better. Rachel never contacted me. I didn't expect her to. Guilt doesn't always seek forgiveness. Sometimes it hides in new places and tries to call them fresh starts. But I knew wherever she went, the sandal was still somewhere in Ben's glove box. Proof that the past fits in small objects. Dean texted once more, "I'll sign whatever you need." I sent him the papers, got them back unsigned. He never added a note. The silence was his apology. I accepted it, then deleted the thread. On the 7th day, I stood at the edge of the pier and let the wind rip through me. I let it peel back all the fake comfort. I said aloud, "I'm still here." No one heard me, but I did, and that was enough. I didn't move far, just 2 neighborhoods over. A smaller apartment, older building, creaky stairs, but sunlight that didn't feel like surveillance. The kitchen tiles didn't match. The faucet whined when it ran hot, but the silence here wasn't heavy. It was clean, unused. I liked that. I picked the apartment in 20 minutes. Not because it was perfect, it wasn't, but because I didn't need perfection anymore. I needed distance. From him. From who I was around him. From the version of myself that filtered everything through his comfort. The day I moved in, I brought only 6 boxes. 4 held books and clothes, 1 held my journals. The last one held the evidence, the invoice, the logs, the screenshots, the sandal. I taped that one shut and wrote, "Do not open," across the top in red marker. Not to forget, just to contain. Healing isn't erasure, it's control. I didn't hang anything on the walls for the first 2 weeks. I needed to hear the space echo. I needed to know where my voice landed. I spent most of the first week at the small round table by the window. It overlooked a tree, not much else. But it was mine. I journaled in the morning, stretched my spine with the sunrise. I still made coffee the same way. French press, 2 scoops, almond milk, but I poured it into a different mug now. A solid blue one I bought from a thrift shop down the street. No shared history, just ceramic and heat. I didn't decorate, I curated. Every item had to pass a quiet test. Does this belong to the version of me who left, or the one who stayed? If it belonged to the old story, it stayed boxed. One afternoon, I went walking. No destination, just sneakers and breath. I found a bookstore 2 blocks away, dusty, cramped, full of too many titles for the square footage, the kind of place that still used handwritten price tags. I liked it instantly. A woman behind the counter looked up, maybe early 50s, gray streaks in her braid, denim shirt unbuttoned at the collar. "Help you find anything?" she asked. "Not yet," I said, "just looking for something I haven't already read." She smiled. "Aren't we all?" I bought 3 books. One was poetry. I hadn't read poetry in years. Dean used to make fun of it. "Why read feelings dressed up in riddles?" he once said. I didn't answer then. But now, standing in my kitchen under the soft yellow of an ugly ceiling light, I read aloud, "You are not broken. You are breaking open." I didn't cry. Not right away. But I underlined that line 3 times. That night, Ben texted again. Just a photo. His living room. Empty walls. A single bag on the floor. Caption, "Starting over. We'll survive this." I stared at the photo for a long time. Then replied, "We already did." He heart-reacted. Nothing more. We weren't going to become something. We weren't swapping tragedies. We were just 2 people who got out. That was enough. 1 week later, I received a letter in the mail. No return address? Inside, the locksmith invoice, folded neatly. The one I taped inside the storage room. The one I left behind. No note, just the invoice. I held it like a ghost had mailed me a memory. Dean, maybe. Or Rachel. Or someone else entirely. I didn't need to know. I tore it once, then again. 4 pieces. I dropped them in the trash. I already had the original. And the truth didn't need a twin. I no longer needed constant reminders. I had myself. I had the ache. I had the scar. That would be enough. Some nights were harder. I'd wake at 2:47 a.m., certain I heard the front door. I didn't. But my body still remembered what it was like to wonder who was arriving late, who was lying, who was slipping away in plain sight. I kept a pen and pad by the bed. I'd write down whatever surfaced. One night I scribbled, "He didn't betray me because I failed. He betrayed me because I stayed." Another night, "It's not my job to rehabilitate the person who broke me." I started calling these my 2 a.m. truths. Raw, unedited. Sharper than anything daylight would allow. I wrote dozens. They filled a notebook. By week 3, I'd written enough to stop dreaming about the hallway, the storage door, the sound of Rachel's laugh. They didn't vanish, they just stopped carrying weight. One day, I pulled out the "Do Not Open" box, sat with it, touched every item, the log, the invoice, the printed screenshot of Rachel's post, now pixelated from poor ink, the sandal. I looked at it the longest, bent, scuffed, toe strap loose. It had been left behind like it wasn't important, but it had told me more than either of them ever did. I placed everything back inside, taped the box shut again, wrote a new label in fresh marker. I survived this. Then I slid it under the bed, not to hide it, just to let it rest. That afternoon, I lit a candle, not for ritual, just for scent. Vanilla cedar. I made soup. I played music, the kind I used to say I didn't like. And for the first time in weeks, I laughed. At nothing. Just the soup bubbling too fast, the song skipping, the cat on the fire escape staring in like he knew something about me. I said aloud, "I'm still here." This time, I didn't need to hear it echoed. I already believed it. He showed up at 4:17 p.m. on a Thursday. I know the time because I had just set the kettle to boil. I wasn't expecting anyone. The buzzer startled me. I checked the screen. Dean. Standing there like the last 2 months hadn't happened. Same coat, same expression, like he was still rehearsing whatever he planned to say. I let the kettle boil. Let him wait. After 1 full minute, I pressed the intercom. "Why are you here?" "Just to talk," he said. "Please." I hesitated. then buzzed him in. I didn't do it for him. I did it for me. I needed to see what closure looked like when it stood on the other side of your threshold, asking permission. He knocked lightly. I opened the door. Didn't invite him in, just looked at him. His hair was longer. He smelled like soap and nerves. "You look good," he said. "You don't." He half laughed, then swallowed it. "I wanted to say something in person. You already did." "No. That was a mess. This isn't necessary," I said. "I'm not angry anymore." "That's not why I came." "Then why?" He took a breath. "I wanted to apologize, not just for what I did, but for how long I let it happen. For how I made you feel invisible." I didn't speak. I wanted to see if he'd fill the silence. He did. I thought I could juggle everything. I thought I deserved more than what I had, and instead of earning it, I stole it. "You stole time," I said. "From me. From yourself." "I know." He looked down. "I miss you." "No, you don't. You miss the version of me who let you feel good about yourself." "That's not true." "It is. And that's okay. Missing something doesn't mean you're meant to return to it." "I know that too. So what do you want, Dean?" "I wanted to hand you this." He reached into his pocket, pulled out the bracelet. "The one I found in the storage room." "It was yours," he said. "I don't want it back. I thought maybe you'd want to bury it, or burn it." "I already did. In my head. Every night I stayed after knowing, I burned a little more of myself to keep you warm." He didn't argue, just held the bracelet like it still meant something. "Rachel left," he said. "She moved in with her sister. She says I ruined everything." "Did you?" "Probably. And I realized I wasn't with her because I loved her. I was with her because she didn't know the worst parts of me yet." I stared at him. "And you think I didn't?" "I think you knew. And stayed anyway. That's what makes this harder." "No, Dean, that's what made me tired." He nodded. "I deserved that." "You deserve a lot of things. Some of them painful, some of them healing. But none of them from me." His jaw tightened. "So that's it? That's peace. Peace feels cold." "No," I said. "Peace just feels unfamiliar when you've lived in drama for too long." He handed me the bracelet. I didn't take it. I stepped back. "Leave it on the floor." He placed it down gently, like it might break. "I did love you," he said. "I know," I replied. "But love isn't a permission slip. What do I do now?" "Whatever you want, just not with me." He looked around my apartment, took in the blank walls, the books stacked neatly, the smell of something burning the kettle. "This place suits you," he said. "It's mine," I answered. "Everything in it knows my name." He smiled faintly. "Goodbye, Mara. Goodbye, Dean." He walked away slowly, didn't turn around. I watched until the elevator closed. Then I shut the door, picked up the bracelet, noticed how cheap it felt now, how small. I placed it in a drawer. Not the one with the logs, not the one with the journal, just a drawer. Then I poured the boiling water, sat at the table, stirred my tea. I didn't cry. I didn't shake. I didn't replay the conversation. I didn't need to. It wasn't closure. It was confirmation. He came back to say sorry, but I didn't need sorry anymore. I needed solitude. And now, I had it. Later that night, I lit another candle. The cat returned to the fire escape. The wind shifted. And for the first time in months, I slept without waking at 2 a.m. 3 months later, the box under the bed was still there. I hadn't touched it. Not once. Not because I was afraid of it, but because I didn't need to measure my healing by how well I could face old evidence. The healing had already happened, not in one grand moment, but in hundreds of quiet ones, waking without dread, laughing at my own cooking mistake, saying no without explanation, walking into rooms and not checking shadows. That was the proof. On a Sunday morning in February, I opened the window and let the air in. It was cold but not cruel. The kind of chill that tells you winter is shifting, not disappearing, but loosening its grip. I brewed coffee, vanilla creamer, 1 sugar. I drank it slowly while a jazz playlist played off my phone. No lyrics, just mood, just movement. I looked around the apartment. Still small, still mine. I had added a painting, abstract shapes in red and rust and gold. It didn't mean anything specific, but every time I looked at it, I felt taller, stronger, more like myself. That day, I opened the box. Not out of ritual, just instinct. I unfolded the documents, one by one. I read them with steady eyes. The invoice, the lock logs, the screenshots, the bracelet, the sandal, all still there, still dated, still real, but they didn't pierce. They sat there like props from a show whose script I no longer needed. I smiled, not because I was proud of how it ended, but because I survived the middle. I reboxed everything. This time, I labeled it with a new marker, closed. Then I walked it down to the building's storage room. The irony didn't hit me until I was standing in front of the door. The same kind of keypad, the same metallic handle. This room held paint cans and dust and forgotten furniture. No secrets, no lies, just leftovers. I placed the box in the far corner. Left it there. No dramatics, no farewell, just release. On my way back up, I passed a young couple moving in. Early 20s, full of loud laughter and mismatched mugs. The girl nodded at me. "You live here long?" "Just moved in recently," I said. "How's the neighborhood?" "Real," I said. "And that's more than I could ask for." She smiled. I smiled back. In the elevator, I watched the floors rise. I remembered all the times I'd stood in silence, hiding screams under my ribs. Now, I stood upright. No hidden ache, just breath. That afternoon, Ben called. Not a message, a real call. I answered. "Hey," he said. "Weird question, do you still have the name of that locksmith?" I laughed. "Changing locks already?" "No," he said. "My sister just bought a house. She's trying to rekey everything, and I remembered you had someone you trusted. I'll text you his info. Thanks. And, hey, how are you really?" I paused, looked at my tea, at the open window, at my reflection in the microwave door. "I'm quiet," I said. "And that used to scare me, but now it feels like peace. That's good. You? Learning how to be bored without blowing things up. A noble skill, one day at a time. Same." We hung up. No promises, no maybes. Just people who had once been broken near each other. Not together, just honest. That night, I walked to the bookstore. The same woman was there. She remembered my name. "You look lighter," she said. "I left something heavy behind." "Good trade." I bought a new journal. Hard cover, navy blue, gold edges. On the first page I wrote, "I am not what they did. I am what I did after." And then I turned the page. No plans, no pain, just blank space, room to become.